This radio is something special. In 1985, I started restoring and collecting radios. 18 years old, didn't know a damn thing about restoring, repairing, was very green. And it was also my first year in college. I started collecting in the summer of that year. Towards the winter time, I thought to myself, man, that'd be great if I could just give radios away as Christmas presents or something along those lines. I was always looking for them. And I was home around Christmas time. Found a gentleman who had this. And I gave it to my roommate's dad. Now remember, this was 1985. I had cleaned it up, stupid enough to plug it in. At one point it played, but at one point I saw a little fireworks display in one of the tubes. So I knew sooner or later it would have to be recapped, but I didn't know anything about recapping quite back then as I do now. Imagine my surprise 30 years later, 2015. That old roommate of mine says, hey, I now have Mom and Dad's old home. I found a couple old radios. Would you like to have them? And out of that, guess what was in that group? This very set. This is a 1940 Delco R-1177. And between the time that I first saw this and now, I was 18, maybe even 19. Yes, I was 19. When I first purchased this set, 30 years later, it's back in my possession. Here's the dial. It's a 3-bander. AM, your standard 55 to 160. Then they have what they call medium wave, which, well, medium wave is really this band. But it's the early shortwave from 1.6 to 4.5, so you're somewhere along here is your 80 meter band. And then from there, the third one, 6 to 18 megahertz. And I can't remember if those shortwave bands worked or not, but that's not going to matter because now I aim to restore this set. I first laid hands on it when I was just a neophyte. Now with 30 years of wisdom, I'm finally going to tackle this thing. Might also add it has push-button tuning, just like a car radio. Mechanical. You just push the buttons and that sets your station. I'll probably need to set them for the Indianapolis band. And this one's a little bit off. I remember this one was broken, so I may have to try to see if I can fix that again. And your controls. On-off volume. Tone. This even has a phono jack on it. And then a whole bunch of other ranges on here. So I don't know if this is a replacement switch or what's going on with that. Your range switch, the band switch, and of course your manual tuning. So in just a minute I'm going to crack open the case, and for the first time 30 years I'm going to stare at this chassis. Listening to some aircraft chatter on this little radio while I'm doing that. Here's the chassis. Pretty good shape. As I'd mentioned, this I'll need to probably readdress. It's broken, it's a little bit crooked. These knobs need, or buttons I should say, need to be cleaned up. And they've got their original station settings that I'd probably need to make reproductions of. That shouldn't be a problem. For the most part, looks very clean. I know the tubes are clean. I cleaned those 30 years ago, so that's my handiwork. That is a replacement. I can tell you that right now. This is the original. And look at that tiny, tiny transformer. All the more I should never have plugged this thing in immediately after I got it. So everything looks good. Now it's time to look on the underside and see what shape it's in. Listening to aircraft chatter on this little radio while I work on this one. Here's the insides. Looks pretty original. There's a few repairs like here and here. Some black beauties. Other thing I noticed, we've got these things that one of the other collectors, they call them aptly deer turd capacitors. These also go bad. And I was wrong about one of those IF transformers not being original. The one I pointed to and said that was not original, that is. It was the other one that wasn't original. So, I found where the electrolytics are. They go here. So I'm debating on how I'm going to put the new ones in place. But first what I've got to do, I've got to replace all these paper capacitors. Now I remember 30 years ago this thing played, so that's not going to be a problem. And it was probably just laid to rest and never used again. So it's a matter of replacing all these capacitors first. Then I'll start on the electrolytics and then we'll go from there. I've recapped it mostly. There's still a bunch more capacitors to get rid of. Tons of solder blobs. This was one of the worst put together sets I think I've ever seen. And of that, what wasn't poorly put together, it was just replacement stuff. It was almost like a chop shop. But I've taken care of most of it. I put a new power cord on it, and I'm going to go ahead and plug it in. I'm going to slowly bring it up. Filter caps have not been replaced yet. I just want to see what this thing will do. And with my meter, or my Variac, it's well metered, so if it starts to jump, I'm ready for it. So okay, we've got the Variac on. The set needs to be turned on. I have no clue what band this thing is even on, for that matter. So I'll just put it in the middle. Okay, there's A. Here's this. I'll put the band up here. Alright, let's see what this bad boy does. Turn the power off on the light. Here we go, 30 volts. Dial light is on. Now remember something, this has not seen power since 1985. So I'm going gently with it. And while we sit here and wait, I'll put some stuff away. There's a few more capacitors I still need to replace, but I just wanted to see first if I have not made, I wanted to make sure I hadn't made a mistake. Alright. So far so good. I normally don't like doing this, but eventually, next couple of days he's going to be replaced anyway. 60 volts. I have tube glow. Nothing out of the rectifier yet. Let me check it. Cool as a cucumber. 6F6 is coming to life. I think that's a 6F6, isn't it? Yes, it is. Dial light is on. No sound from the speaker yet. don't even know if the rectifier's coming on yet. We're just going to take our sweet time with this. Nothing crazy. In fact, I can check. The rectifier is getting warm, actually. That's good. So there is some current going through it. Good. Ammeter has not done a thing, so that's a good sign. Clean up that. 70 volts. Rectifier is coming on. It's now warm. Check the tubes. Can't really tell if there's anything going on yet. It's almost like a set and suspended animation. Last time this thing has seen any action was 30 years ago when I was 18. Boy, that sucker's already getting warm. Good. Unfortunately, I can't read whether or not that's doing anything. Transformer's cool as a cucumber. This is getting warm. That's getting warm. I can't tell with those tubes. But the rectifier certainly is getting warm. That's normal. $80 volts. I ought to be starting to hear some stuff by now. Good sign is the rectifier is not red plating. We don't have a short. No chuff. I take that back. We do have a chuff. Okay, so the output tube is seeing stuff. Band switch is doing nothing. There is a hum. A slight hum. Current is coming up a little bit on the ammeter. That's good. That bad boy's getting hot. That's not hot. Those are pretty cold. Just give them a good wiggle. Make sure they're... Hey! I think that thing brought things to life. Well, maybe. I'm assuming this is the oscillator. We'll make sure this is well seated. Now we got some crackle. Good. Still no chuff. 90 volts. Oh hell, I'm going to take it up to 95. Let's see what it does. Still nothing from the band switch. That's not a good sign. Well, we definitely got some capacitors or something that did not like to be waking up after 70 plus years. It's a little high. Not bad. It should be normal. Alright. want to take her to 100. Let's see what she does. 110. That's all I dare do. Lots of crickle crackle. I think she's pulling out too much current myself, but there is nothing from the band switch. I'm checking to make sure the oscillators got seated. No, there's nothing. Let's seat that back in. Let me pull this out. It did nothing. I don't even know if these are really getting any power. Let's see. Those are clean. That's good. How about you? Well, you don't like being taken out. Alright. Now, we have no signal whatsoever. We've got audio, but we have no signal. So, I'm going to have to work along around here, see what's up. But it's definitely around this band switch. It's deader than a doorknob. Parts have shown up, and so what I'm aiming to do is put these two into this. So I've cleaned this up as best I could. This one's not needed anymore because it's in the chassis next to the tube it's supposed to operate. Only had one wire. These have other places they have to go. So these are the same size that need to go in here. So I'm going to do the capacitor stuffing, cut this out, maybe about up to here. Put these two in, drill holes into this, put them in, stick her back in, because this thing is shot. And here we are. We have the two 10 microfarad capacitors in place. I still have the ground to put in, but these things have got to go into slots in the chassis. Then I'll wrap them around and then tie them down. But with a little bit of that foil tape, the whole thing fits and will be a near invisible repair. By the way, this is the first time I've ever done one of these. We are running! Have a squirrely rectifier socket. I went ahead and cleaned it up a little bit, wiggled a few tubes, a whiff of ozone, and we are alive again. First time in 30 years.
Next week, a piece of cyber.
I'll be a little high on the voltage and take that down to 115. That'll be perfect.
Edge of the web radio.
I'm going to make sure that that rectifier is seated.
With Ann and John. Craig Cinnamon and John Cinnamon. You probably remember us from various radio stations around Indianapolis over the years, but we're also world travelers, and we've now come into this weekly show with travel news, tips, interviews, and some other fun stuff.
Audio could be better.
On today's Get Packin', we're going to have the worst habits of airline passengers. I'm sure we can add a few.
It feels cool. That feels cool.
Worst airport TSA checkpoints in the whole country.
just
of the Wall Street Journal about airline credit cards. Whether it's worth it anymore to get those.
I'm gonna have to look through and see if some of those resistors are okay.
United Airlines,
It just
starting June 1st, plans to begin flying non-stop from San Francisco to Singapore.
it should sound better than this.
The longest
I'll go on ahead and tune it up just for snicks and grins, but I'm still going to be doing some more work on it.
between the U.S. and Singapore.
And how long is it?
Well, it's done. I replaced all the wonky resistors that were in it. I went ahead and gave the cabinet a good once over with Howard's Restore Finish. I set all of the push buttons to stations for the Indianapolis area. It's all set to go. So at this point, we'll do a final demonstration. Radio is coming on as we speak. We're on the AM band. Now we're in the daytime, so it's not going to be as hot in terms of sensitivity. At night, it's just crazy.
One's, very animated, and the other one is very dignified, but moves along.
Maybe a person. He has lived in Washington his whole life. He grew up in Washington. That is all he knows. He is a Democrat Party hack. He's 3823-2020. Online at CordellCordell.com.
Okay, so you can tune it like that, or if you want to go the quicker way.
I just want to make sure you're factually correct. And this guy cannot hold an intellectual candle, Ted Cruz.
Then we can go here.
Ted Cruz says what he means what he says, likes saying what he says, and is right about it, is a great debater, and is not taken off his game.
1861, when your dad was a son, was a child, 1861, if there's 5,000 Confederate soldiers...
That's WLW.
Potomac, like in...
But this thing was all
1070 the fan.
on the
Which is
part of the deal.
One thing about it, show
950.
what the medication is.
I think that's WXLW, which is the Spanish station. And one that's not here, that you will hear at night, which will be WSM. That's reserved for that spot. So now, I can't guarantee if we're going to get anything on... oh, let me demonstrate this also. I'll put it on the Spanish station for it. This is low band, yeah, I can speak. Low tone, medium, and then that's high. Between you and me, they both sound the same, and it sounds better this way.
Mistake, and 30 years later, 20 years later,
Okay.
that's what they got,
Now,
then you're doing all
I
right.
can't guarantee anything on the shortwave bands, because in the middle of the day, you're not going to get anything. However, I can do one little trick. If I can get to it. I can hook the shortwave band and my cliff dweller antenna, which I've just done. And that's going to help in terms of sensitivity. This is the middle band, which is like 1.6 to 4.5 megahertz, and you're probably not going to hear anything. Like I said, just nothing going on during the day on these bands. Where you would normally be, that's active, is going to be 12 to 14 to 16 to 18, somewhere in there. Maybe even the 31 meter band.
As a witness testimony.
There's Brother Stare. Is that guy still alive? I thought he was dead.
And then shall the end
trying to please the Jews.
But this is a shortwave
We
band.
have softened the story.
It is such a pity. 30 years ago, you could hear just about anybody and his brother. Now all you hear
The judge
is this guy
young man.
and a bunch of other religious broadcasters. It's a little touchy, but you can tune them in. Yeah, the hotter side of the shortwave band during the day is down towards 12 to 18 megahertz, which would be around the 25 meter band. It's got a very good tone. Okay, that's about it. There won't be anything around the 49 meter band until later this evening. So we return to AM. Press our button. So there we go. A 30-year restoration. I set it away in 1985, and in 2015 it comes back to me, and now it's restored. 1940 Delco. Model R-1177. Fully restored.